Everyone's dream is to be accused of being a fake natty, especially if you are completely natural. It is the biggest compliment anyone can ever get. And coming from someone that has been accused of taking gear in the past when I haven't touched anything at all, the reason for that is having 2 cannonballs attached to your delts. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to take my shoulders from this to this. The biggest mistake I see people make when they go in and train their shoulders is usually they're too focused on the shoulder pressing and the front side of the delt. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. You definitely start needing to doing that, but this is why maybe you want to think about other things first before focusing on your pressing and your front delt. So many people focus on kind of the front delt and kind of the pressing going forward with their shoulders is because they can see them. They can see them in the mirror. When they're looking in the mirror, they can see the shoulders. But what you can't see are the lateral head and obviously the rear delts. They're mainly very underdeveloped for a lot of guys. So what I would do is, what I do personally is I put my focus on my weakest kind of body part first. So out of the 3, in my opinion, I've got a decent front delt, decent side delt, but at the minute, my rear delt's really lacking. So I'll start off with a kind of a rear delt exercise. When I'm fresh, I can just put as most intensity into that set, and then I can move on to like my lateral raises and kind of my presses towards the end. Another thing, your front delt does get used in a lot of your press movements. Not saying that you have to completely cut out presses, because that's just stupid, because it isn't a front delt movement, but you are going to be hitting that if you are hitting an incline press during the session. As I just mentioned in the last little bit, rear delts would be a priority for me when I'm first starting off, mainly because it's a weak point for me. I usually mix between 2 kind of exercises, either a face pull or a cable rear delt fly. So here I'm doing cable rear delt flies, really focusing on having the cable set at a high angle, and you're focusing on, I like to kind of go with the Ronaldo, so driving it back, nice and slow and controlled, really focusing on pulling that shoulder blade together. That's what your main focus is when doing this. So when it comes to growing your side delt, everyone knows is lateral raises, but lateral raises could be the most butchered exercise in the entire gym. You feel very uncomfortable doing it. You don't know if you're doing it right, and everything just kind of feels a little bit off. It doesn't feel comfortable at all. And the main kind of mistakes that I see so many people make, they're swinging the dumbbells. They pick a weight that's way too heavy, look at this and go, who the hell's using this? 2.5s? What the fuck are you doing using them? They're very, very good because you can actually keep control of the weight and you're not swinging the weight up. That's when people tend to feel it in their traps a lot more, and they end up kind of shrugging the weight up. And that's when people grow these massive traps. It's probably why my traps are actually pretty decent, because maybe the first couple of years, I might have been using too much trap, too much kind of swinging going on. And that's why I don't even need to train my traps, and they're probably overdeveloped compared to the rest of my physique. So one way you can obviously do that is drop the weight. And the next one is, you see this here? There's not a lot going on here. You could do that all day. You can probably pick 20, 30 kilo kind of plate and do that all day long. So I'm going through exactly how I used to fix that and how I used to grow my side delt, which is now one of my most developed muscle groups. So instead of standing up when doing your lateral raises, sit down. What this essentially does is it stops you kind of swinging the weight up. The next thing, I think a lot of people still will try and find a swing in the shoulder and they're not feeling a lot more in their traps. What I want you to do is I want you to kind of bring your shoulders back and down. This will then stop you kind of bringing it up and shrugging it up. And like I said before, here, there's not a lot going on. So what you're gonna do, you wanna start a little bit further out. And from there, instead of just thinking straight up, I want you to think about bringing the dumbbell slightly in front. I'm gonna reach out to the corners of the room, going up to around 45 degrees, maybe slightly up past, then you can just come back down and you're stopping just before driving up through. Everyone is looking for the perfect shoulder exercise, the perfect shoulder routine that's gonna change their life and get them cannonball delts. But the one thing that is going to do that isn't going to be your form. It isn't going to be your exercise selection. Yes, they're important, but they aren't going to be the main driving factor behind it. It's going to be how hard you are training in them sessions, the intensity you bring to them sets. If you look through some of the exercises that I put through here on the B-roll, look at the speed of the rep. It starts off very, very quick, very, very comfortable. The first 5-6 reps, comfortable. But as the set goes on, it starts to get more and more difficult. That's exactly what you want for your sets. You want to start nice and comfortable, and then towards the end, you look like you're about to shit yourself. If you're not doing that, then it doesn't really matter what execution form you're doing, what exercises you're doing. If you're doing the perfect exercise, if you're not taking it 1 to 2 reps off complete failure in every single set, then you aren't going to be building muscle. As your shoulder is quite a small muscle group, it definitely means you can add a lot more volume to it, and you can add a lot more frequency to it as well. So one thing that I definitely started doing over the years with my lateral raises, with rear delt flies, they can recover pretty quickly. What you can do is you can do your set of lateral raises, wait 15 seconds, and then go again. Now what that's called is a rest pause set. So you can do that to increase the intensity, because once you're doing you get to set, say, 15, 20, and you get to finish, you got really not much more there. There is probably more there. Wait 15 seconds, go again, till failure, and you'll be able to recover just as well because the shoulder is a smaller muscle group and you're able to recover a lot faster as opposed to doing maybe a chest press where there's more muscle groups involved. With the shoulder and the lateral raises, there's only that really muscle involved. Maybe a little bit, grabbing the weight, but it's not gonna take over massively. And there's one thing that I've started doing over the past couple of months that I can't lie, I've completely taken from Greg O'Gallagher, I think, Kinobody, is I used to think they were a load of shit. I used to think they were a load of bullshit. I never used to do them. I used to think, what the fuck is that? Like 2 exercises in one, what's the point? And I started implementing this about 2 months ago, and I can't lie, I have been seeing decent growth in my shoulders, and that is like a Cuban press. So the way you do that, you're combining an upright row and you're combining a shoulder press. So what you're doing is you're taking the weight, you're bringing it up, bringing the elbows up, and as you're turning it into a press. Now, obviously, you're gonna be able to do a little bit more in terms of the upright row as opposed to kind of the press, but I wouldn't be doing this all the time. I'd go through kind of cycles where you do it for, say, 8-10 weeks of doing that, and then you go back to a kind of a military press or a dumbbell press so you can get strong on that. But ideally, you're gonna be stronger in a press as you are gonna be with an upright row. I can't lie, I used to absolutely shit on this exercise, but it is a decent exercise and I've been doing it for the past couple of months. Just thought I'd give it a go, but I definitely start adding that into your routine as well for 8-10 weeks and then kind of swapping for maybe a shoulder press afterwards. So you're still getting strong on your shoulder press and you're not actually leaving any gains on the table in terms of with your front delt and then obviously your side delt as well. So earlier I mentioned in the video that some people don't like doing shoulder presses because you're getting the likes of the incline presses through, which I do get because I used to actually promote that a long time ago when I don't really think I knew what I was talking about. I was just listening to other people online. But the kind of the science behind it is obviously when you're doing an incline press, your front delt is getting hit. It isn't a front delt exercise, so it's gonna be a secondary kind of muscle in that exercise as opposed to the upper chest and chest being the kind of the primary kind of muscle group trying to target. It's a bit like saying, right, so your biceps get hit when you're doing rows. Everyone knows that when you're rowing, you get a bit of kind of bicep action there. And that's like kind of going in and saying, right, so I'm gonna train my biceps and I'm gonna end up just doing a few rows. Does not make any sort of sense at all. So I don't know why people do compare that. Stupid. Now that is the simple work out of the way because let's be real, once you learn how to lift the weight, once you know how to train hard, then the gym is pretty easy as long as you're consistent with it. That's all you need to do is be consistent and train hard. Once you've got that covered, then that's the gym side completely out the way. Now we move on to the more difficult things. Obviously you're in the gym, what, 1, 2, 3 hours a week, probably 4 max per week. What are you doing for them other hours? You're gonna be sleeping and you're gonna be eating as well. So that's where the most important thing comes in with the diet and just sleep. When it comes to diet, first of all, even split of protein throughout the day. You want 3 to 4 meals, ideally 40 to 50 grams of protein in each one of their meals, making sure protein is like kind of the priority in that meal. You kind of go, right, fill protein and then carbs and fats. When it comes to actually in and around your training, pre-workout, I'd be focusing on mostly carbs, quick digesting and slow digesting carbs. Pre-workout, I usually go with dates, raw honey, banana, some coffee, dark chocolate in the coffee. That's my kind of go-to when it comes to pre-workout. Post-workout, what you're looking for, 1 to 3 hours post-workout, you're looking protein. So one protein source that I'll use 2 different ones really. I usually go for chicken or I go for beef mince, usually 5%. I like to keep the fats a little bit lower after training, mainly down to I want quick carbs in the system is what I'm looking for. So we go for protein, beef mince usually, or chicken, and then I'll go for a clean kind of carb source. I'll do 1 quick digesting carb source, and I'll do 1 like kind of slower digesting carb source as well. So for my slow digesting carb source, I will use either a sweet potato or I'll use maybe whole wheat rice, or if I'm desperate, I'll go on some sourdough bread, but then I'll also have some quick digesting carbs. Usually it's gonna be fruit, and I like to swap between having like an apple or sometimes throw in a kiwi, basically something that's kind of full of sugar, still has a little bit of fiber in there as well, something that isn't gonna completely spike your blood sugar as well, so you're not then crashing in energy later in the day. And I'll then combine all of these here, post-workout, 1 to 3 hours, and that is perfect because when you're training, your body is using carbs as a fuel source. As you're doing high intensity exercise, your body is using carbs, so you need to replenish the carbs, and the protein's obviously good for restarting the recovery kind of system with the growth and repair. Now moving more into the growth and repair, sleep is going to be absolutely massive. Now I've got videos on sleep on this channel, so if you want to go and look at them, they'll go into a lot more detail, but I'm going to give you 4 kind of tips to really help you out with your sleep. The first thing you want to be looking into is obviously regularity. Waking up, going to bed at similar times. The main reason for this is because obviously in the first couple of hours of sleep, that is where is your deep sleep. That is where the most growth hormone is released, and growth hormone helps growth and repair of the muscles. So if you then skip that, so let's say you go to bed usually 9 p.m, but for talk's sake, a couple of nights a week, you end up going at 11 p.m. You've then missed them first couple of hours of the deep sleep. You can't really get them back. So that's why it's important, waking up, going to sleep at the exact same time. Next one, going outside. Sounds kind of productive. In the morning, take yourself outside. What that basically does is it resets your circadian rhythm. So then you go to bed and go to bed less alert when you need to, more relaxed when you go to sleep. Third one, last meal, 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, so your body isn't digesting food and can actually relax before you go to bed. And the last one would be screen time. Blue light blockers an hour before you go to bed, or just go off your phone 1 hour before you go to bed. Blue light will disrupt your deep sleep, means less growth hormone release, i.e. less muscle being built. So that's the main important one. So diet, making sure you nail your diet and you nail your sleep. I don't care what training you can do. If you're training consistently, very, very good. But this here is going to be the determining factor in making sure you're sleeping, because that takes up a lot more of your time than actually going to the gym. If you enjoyed that video, please click subscribe and drop into the comments what muscle group you want to see next. If you want to see arms, if you want to see chest, if you want to see back, lads out there, if you want to see legs, don't be skipping legs. If you want to see a leg one as well, I will be more than happy to do that. But yes, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.